welcome to the third day of the BFI Future Film Festival. I'm Laura Boswell, Head of Futures and Skills at the BFI. I'm really delighted to welcome you to this panel presented by ScreenSkills, a guide to working in post-production and VFX. You'll notice today that we're in Zoom webinar format, so please do use the chat box to introduce yourselves, which I can see that you're all doing already. Noel from the Future Film Festival team will be managing the chat box today and answering any questions you may have about the BFI or the festival in there. If you've got any questions for today's panellists, please put them into the Q&A box. Winnie from our team will be managing this, and we have time at the end of the session to put these questions to our panel. I also wanted to let you know that today's event is being recorded and will be uploaded to the BFI YouTube channel after the festival. So now I will hand you over to Felisha Weeks, who is our host for today's session.
Hello and welcome to this ScreenSkills panel this afternoon on our guide to post-production and VFX. My name, as Laura mentioned, is Felisha Weeks, and I'm the ScreenSkills event producer and your chair for today. ScreenSkills is the industry-led skills body for the UK screen industries, film, television, VFX, animation, and games. We provide insight, career development, and other opportunities to help people get into the industry and progress within it. Our work includes training programs for new entrants and university leavers, such as the ScreenSkills Select program, but we'll get into that a little bit later in the discussion. Today, I am joined by an amazing panel who are here to share their knowledge. We have Lisa Wakeley, who will be giving you some insight into what she does as a VFX production manager, where she's currently working on the latest Robert Eager film, The Northman, an upcoming historical thriller. After her move from the West Midlands to London at the end of 2010 and working numerous TV game show and drama roles, Lisa eventually learned more about visual effects and knew this was where she wanted to be. She has worked on Pan, Wonder Woman, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and more. Next, I would like to introduce Devin Stewart, who is a ScreenSkills alumni who worked on Jurassic during his placement on the ScreenSkills Film Trainee Finder program. There'll be more talk about that later, but in essence, Trainee Finder is a paid placement program. Devon studied an MA in animation and graduated with a first-class honours degree in motion capture and calibration. He aspires to become a VFX supervisor. He is best placed to tell you firsthand what his experience was as a VFX post-production trainee. And finally, we have Natalie Tandoh from ScreenSkills, who in her normal capacity is the marketing and communications manager at ScreenSkills. She has a great passion for film and television and has previously worked at ITV Studios, Disney, and Lionsgate. Natalie will be able to share with you some information about the Trainee Finder program and other opportunities ScreenSkills has that may be of interest to you. As Laura mentioned, please speak with us and write your questions in the chat function, and I'll aim to get to your questions for the panel in our Q&A section at the end of this event. So over to the panel. Lisa, can you tell us a little bit about your background? What did you study and what were you doing before this role?
Hello, everyone. So I knew I wanted to work in film since I was about 5 years old. And it was actually when I watched the very first Jurassic Park film, and I just fell in love with it. It was just magical and I knew it's where I wanted to go. Growing up, I didn't feel like there was a lot of information out there about film and all the different departments. So I actually started doing theatre studies, and that's what I studied at university. So it's more about plays and everything like that. However, when I graduated, I knew that London was the place to be. So I'm originally from the West Midlands. So I moved down to London to be near all the film studios and the post-production houses. And I just started to apply for everything and anything. Back then, I didn't really know too much about visual effects. I just knew I had to get my foot in the door. So I started actually in the production department in television. And I eventually transitioned to film. And my first film was actually Gravity, which is obviously very big visual effects. And it was there that I actually fell in love with that department and knew that that's where I had to make the transition.
I mean, you were fortunate to be able to work on Jurassic, fulfilling your dream, your 5-year-old self's dream.
Yeah, it was incredible.
And can you tell us, explain a little bit about the role that you do now? Like, what is a typical day for you?
Well, I find in the film industry and in visual effects, it's great because even though there's a foundation of the same work every day, it's also so varied. So you never get bored of it. It always throws up new questions, new ideas, new visual effects inventions. So in that sense, it constantly keeps you on your toes. But what a VFX production manager does is we work very closely with the VFX producer predominantly. So that means breaking down the script that we have, seeing what visual effects work will be required. And that is also through chatting with all the other departments. So what the art department might be able to build on sets and shoot on, as opposed to what visual effects extensions we might need to do. So it's very much a creative role in the sense of going through, seeing what work needs to be done, having constant discussions and meetings with the director and the camera department as well. And it's also very much about managing the team. So you manage your office crew, coordinators, and also the on-set crew, the data wranglers, and liaising very closely with the supervisor to make sure everything that we need to capture during shoot to help us in post is accomplished.
Great, thank you. And are there any misconceptions, common misconceptions about being a VFX production manager?
I don't think there's any misconceptions about being a production manager per se. I think there can be misconceptions about the visual effects department. I think a lot of people that don't work in visual effects, I think it's purely very techie, which there are a lot of elements to it. If you're on the vendor side and you're the artist, or in the VFX editorial department, it's about pipelines and workflows. So it is very techie, but it's such a creative department. And I don't think people realize that unless you're in it. You work so closely with the director from prep, shoot to post-production. The supervisor has such a big say in a lot of the work that goes in. So I think that is the main misconception.
Okay. And what do you know now that you wished you knew when you started your career?
I think, again, in a VFX standpoint, I wish I had understood how many different paths there are in visual effects. There's client side, which is what I am. And so I work on the productions. I'm hired by the film production company. I get to be on set at the studios and we hire the vendors to do the work. But then there's, of course, the vendor side with the artists, the supervisors, the producers on that end. So I think I wish I'd known more about that starting out, because I think if you know what you want to do, but you're not sure what direction to take, I think that knowledge is invaluable.
Would you say that it's easy to move from the client side to the vendor side then?
I think it is. I think it is more so now. When I first started about 7 years ago in visual effects, you didn't do it quite so much, but it's definitely becoming more fluid. I think with the Northman that I'm on now, my assistant coordinator, he was a coordinator at DNEG for a year. So he's made the transition, and I do find supervisors that are vendor supervisors a lot can become the main supervisor on shows. I've worked with a couple, and again, producers that are vendor producers can definitely make the transition to client side and vice versa. So I do think it's opened up a lot more now.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think, you know, at the start of your career, people might not know which direction they want to go into, and it could change midway. So the flexibility to be able to do that, I think, is comforting.
Yeah.
For people starting out. Thank you. So There are many ways into the screen industry. Film and television don't have clear entry paths into the ways that some other professions do. Before we speak to Devon, I'd like to ask Natalie to tell us a bit more about the couple of ways in which ScreenSkills helps support people get into the industry. Can you tell us about the ScreenSkills Select program? And then we'll move on to Trainee Finder.
First, I'll take myself off mute. I nearly forgot to do that. Thanks, Felisha, and good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, so ScreenSkills Select, for those of you in the Zoom who are planning on pursuing a college course or a uni degree or a postgrad to prepare you for your career in the screen industries, Select is just really a way for you to identify out of the hundreds of courses and hundreds of institutions, which might be the best option for you and your future career. On the Select program, we work with the institutions, and we also work with professionals who are active in the industries right now to endorse courses which have the strongest industry relevance. And by that, I mean, employers have said these courses should give you the skills to prepare you for a career in an industry. I mean, I will reiterate, there are about 10 or 11,000 courses in the UK that are screen related. So this is just about signposting some of the courses that have great teaching and will give you some of those core practical skills that the people who are actually doing the hiring are looking for. And I think that's important, definitely.
Yeah, no, for sure.
If you're spending money on paying for 3 or 4 years of uni education.
Yeah, how do you apply for Select?
You'll hear me say this quite a few times today, I think, but on our website, we do have a handy searchable directory that identifies all the endorsed courses, lots of filters to help you out, and I can drop a link in the chat a bit later to show you that. But I did do a quick scan before coming online to find a few courses that are published right now that relate to post and VFX, like a BA in Visual Effects and Motion Graphics at the University of South Wales. There's an MA in Digital Effects at Bournemouth, a diploma in Motion Graphics at an FTS. But I was struck by what Lisa was just saying about the different routes in. So even though these courses are very specific, maybe more to the creative side or the vendor side that she was talking about, there's obviously lots of different courses for lots of different departments and lots of different ways into the industry. But while you're on our website, you can also find some of the other information about benefits to our Select courses. Things like there's sometimes bursaries you could be entitled to on application to the course. We do run a lot of workshops with colleges and unis that can help prepare you for your career, bringing in professionals to speak about their roles, a bit like this actually, giving you a bit of insider insight into networking, where to find jobs and so on. But in terms of the actual application process for a Select course, it would be via UCAS or direct with the institution, whatever the particular course demands.
Fantastic. But we do know that you don't have to have a degree to get into the industry. There are other courses and experiences that can give you an entry route in. Do you think now would be a good opportunity to talk about the Trainee Finder program?
I think it might.
Tell us about it and how to apply.
Yeah, sure. So Trainee Finder is our entry-level placement scheme, which places trainees on film, high-end television and children's television productions. So participants are on the program for 12 months. I'm not going to go too much deep into the detail because I'm pretty sure you'd rather hear that from Devon than me. But just to give you an overview, the program will include a comprehensive induction period, usually over the course of a weekend. And I think especially if you're brand new to this and you've never been on a film set before or around facilities or crew, there'll be lots of practical work to get you ready for your first day. So things like, how do you read a call sheet? Who's who on set? What's the etiquette? How you're supposed to behave? As well as the practical skills for surviving as a freelancer. What's key to note about the placements, and we give you the support in securing those placements, it's key to know that they're paid. But the other things that come as part of the program over your 12 months will include things like mentoring, training, masterclasses, and everything from personal finance to mental health and resilience for surviving, day to day in the industry, networking opportunities, so on and so forth. And In film, we do collaborate with studio pictures, the independents, and also low budget feature films. So placements that you do end up being matched with could be on anything across the board, which does give you a bit of a breadth of experience. Just thinking back the last couple of years of who we've been placing in film, we've had trainees on Wonder Woman, Jurassic World, God's Own Country, 1917, TV dramas such as Peaky Blinders, Game of Thrones, Killing Eve, my own personal favourite, Bridgerton. So there's lots of opportunities to be had across the board there.
Cool. And what's the recruitment criteria?
Well, we do work closely with productions to identify the specific areas where they'd be looking to offer placements on the upcoming productions that they're working on, and we recruit accordingly. So it is important to check exactly which departments are being recruited for before you make your application, as that list might differ year to year from TV to film. So examples of departments might be, well, of course, post-production and visual effects, as we're talking about here today. But for those of you who have a broader interest in film, it could be anything from costume, camera, production office, assistant directors. There's many, many different departments that go to make up a production of a film or a high-end TV production. But specifically about the criteria, you would need to have less than 12 months paid work experience in that particular department that you're applying for. You must not be in full-time education. Very importantly, you must have the right to work in the UK, because all the placements that we match you with would be on UK productions. It goes without saying that we welcome applications from individuals from all backgrounds. But most importantly, what we're looking for are bright, talented, enthusiastic individuals who just have the passion and just want to build a career in the screen industries, really.
And if I were to apply, what should I expect?
In terms of the application process, well, yeah. Quote unquote normal times, we all remember those. The programme opens for applications in the autumn, with applicants submitting an online form, and then we will run an interview process, generally starting in the new year, and then you'll be ready to start the programme March or April. It's always a really competitive programme. We do get a lot of applications across film or TV, but we're looking for so many different things. So don't let the competitive nature of the programme put you off. Absolutely, if you meet the criteria, I'd say go for it. Provided production continues to recover as it has been doing so far, obviously this would be essential for the placements that we offer. We would hope that we can start to open up again for applications October 2021. Watch this space. And our website.
And any support that ScreenSkills offers?
Yeah, so every year we do have a dedicated liaison manager working with the group. Again, especially if you're brand new to this industry, it's really good to have someone you can reach out to for some support as you learn to navigate the newness. So they'll manage matching you on placements, but they'll also be there to be an info hub, a sounding board, general advice and things like that. So it's just nice to know that someone there's got your back.
Yeah, no, great. Thank you. So I'd like to move on to Devon, who, as I mentioned, was on the ScreenSkills Trainee Finder program. Hiya. So can you tell us a bit about your background? Did you go to uni? What did you study?
Yeah, hi Felisha. Hi everybody. Yeah, I left school with an A in art and a C in science and maths. I didn't know what I wanted to do as a job when I finished school. So I just wanted to do something I like doing. So I thought I'd start, so I always loved like comic books, video games, films. So I decided to carve out a career around those subjects. There wasn't any specific, when I was looking, when I was doing it, there weren't no specific like courses on like video games or film or anything like that, specifically what I wanted to do. So I thought I'd start at the beginning and learn everything from the basis. So I signed up for printing and media college. So, and when I did that, I started at I'd done like a foundation course in like media and printing, and that's gave me like an overall look of like design and media production. Then I went on to do a first diploma in like graphic design, which showed me more like typography and like how to keep things within, work within borders and stuff like that. After completing that, I did my graphic design course, I realized my love for like animation. So I decided to do like a national diploma in multimedia after that, which gave me like a wide view of everything. Like I did animation, video editing, sound engineering, quite a lot. Once I completed that, I did my BA at honours in animation. And then I finally thought I wanted to specialise. So I specialised doing a master's in animation with a huge emphasis on motion capture. And that's when I really found my love for VFX.
Great. And how did you come about applying for the Trainee Finder program? Can you talk about the process that you went through?
Yeah, with Trainee Finder, what I did loads of I used to do loads of research online, and I came across it just doing research online. When I found it, I just couldn't believe there was like an industry standard organization which provides people with an internship and a placement within VFX. I just thought it was astounding. So as soon as I seen it, I just registered straight away and applied via the website. I filled out my application and I did a personal statement, and I just eagerly just awaited a response. It took a couple of weeks to get a response because there was quite a lot of people that applied for it. Once I received an email inviting me to an interview down in on a Trainee Finder program, I got 2 letters of recommendation from my university lecturers, and then I went down to London to the head office for the interview. I was interviewed by like 2 representatives from Trainee Finder program, and the interview lasted about 30 to 45 minutes. I was asked like various different questions about my love and passion for the industry and what I want to do, what I want to achieve. I didn't know if I was successful after I did all the answered all the questions and that, but I felt like I gave it my all. So I drove back the same day to Wales. Took about 2 weeks later. About 2 weeks later, I got a reply back saying that I was accepted on a Trainee Finder program, and then yeah, from that date, I received support from Trainee Finder representatives. Okay,
and would you say that from your perspective, the process for applying was quite straightforward?
Yeah, definitely. It was straightforward because it was straightforward because all I did is everything's lined out for you online. So I mean, the application process is simple. You fill in your registration, you do your personal statement. As long as you got some references from lecturers or somebody that knows you well, you're kind of good to go for the Trainee Finder program.
Right. And can you tell us a bit about your experience on the program? What was it you were doing, like in your job?
Yeah, on my day-to-day, when I got placement, I got placed down in Pinewood. So it was like my first time I've been in a studio. It was the first time I've ever been in a studio. But my typical day-to-day was very busy. You need to be very adaptable doing it. My typical day-to-day would consist of like deliveries in and out of the studio, downloading submissions in correct location on like the server, notifying the team. I'd have to prep submission docs for vendors and deliveries and scene syncs, set up scene syncs and conference calls, work with VFX team to keep submissions log updated, to track all VFX drives in and out of the studio, assist the VFX team with anything they needed, keep VFX iCal and whiteboard updated daily in any meetings, create a one-shot calendar for the whole team, ensure on-set data was backed up on a server, set up drive shuttle system with wranglers, admin general tasks. I was a spare gatekeeper as well, tracking approved previews and ensuring it. Updating Vfx Contacts when required, distributing accordingly throughout prep, shot and post, liaising with transport for taxis, airport transfers, managing petty cash, keeping everything wrapped in a PC log, trapped in a PC log, managing craft services requirements, seeing coffee runs, helping track all the recoverable physical assets in prep and for wrap, make sure phones were all grouped and picked up on a system to generate like a quick cheat sheet with extension numbers on it. make sure the office was presentable at all times, organise birthday cakes and parties for the team, and general admin and runs. That was like my general day to day in the office.
Sounds really busy.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But I guess varied, so it must have been somewhat exciting because no day was exactly the same, right?
Yeah, that's it. It's like, even though I've mentioned all that, it wasn't all of that every single day.
Yeah.
But any of those things could crop up, you know. But
yeah,
you're always busy, and you're never really sitting there twiddling your thumbs at all in the office, you know.
So you mentioned that you're based in Pinewood, but you're originally from Wales. So how did that work?
Yeah, so obviously, like with what I had to do, like because I do 5-day week, my week would start from the Sunday. So I basically traveled down on a Sunday from Wales, which took like about 3 hours drive. Yeah, it's a bit of a long drive, 3 hours drive. I get ready for the Sunday, set up my computer and stuff, like in a hotel nearby, and then obviously get it so I could get in for Monday morning, because with COVID and that, you had to get in extra early so you can go and do your testing. So you'd have to be there at least an hour early to get your test and stuff before do your temperature check and stuff like that, so you can go into the studio and be cleared to go into the studio. So everything started like an hour early, so I'd be up from like 5 to get down and to get into the studio and stuff. So you do long hours in the studio.
Yeah. No, perfect. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you worked in other industries before working in the screen industry, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I worked in loads of different types of jobs before I started in film. Like all my previous experience helped me for this role, though. Like for instance, my accounting experience helped me look through loads of shot lists and data really quickly. My facilities experience meant I could manage a building with loads of people in there. Experience working in IT before means I could set up computers and iPads and servers and stuff like that. My call center experience gave me my call center gave me the ability to go around to talk to other departments, talk to other teams, ringing them up and getting things delivered. Even like my first job in McDonald's gave me experience in serving refreshments and prepping food. Yeah. You know, like working in security prepared me for working long days because you're doing long hours. So everything you previously, everything you do in work experience will be transferable in some way in a studio environment, basically.
I think that's really useful to know, because I think sometimes when you're starting out in your career, people don't value the odd jobs that they do and don't really see where that can fit into your long-term career. But you've just proven that, you know, it kind of helped you with your experience in this current situation. So it's great to know. And from your perspective, what would you say are the most important things that you've learned during your time on the program?
Yeah, most important things I've learned whilst I've been doing this is I just learned exactly like where I fit within film industry. This opportunity gave me like the chance to see behind the scenes, like how films put together, what VFX, how much VFX is actually involved in the film, how you know, all the shots look before it's built together in a like a gradual process. And it just gave me that insight, you know, and I was able to, doing this, I was able to like talk to people and get more insight of what the industry is about. I got to talk, like Lisa mentioned before, I got to speak to the vendors a lot, so I got to see the other side as well of, even though I was working on the production side, I got to speak to those vendors a lot, so I could ask them, what do they do, what sort of stuff are you looking for, what's your day-to-day, you know, that sort of thing. So it was very good doing it, man.
Great, thank you. So I'd like to move back to Lisa as well. I've got another question for you and Lisa, Devon, but just a question for Lisa. From your perspective, what is it that you think makes a good VFX or post-production person?
I think what Natalie mentioned before, and I know it sounds cliche, but just someone that wants to do the job, someone that's passionate about it and is willing to put in the hard work. Devon mentioned it before, it can be grueling hours. You know, I worked on the last Bond film, which is still yet to come out. but there were times when I was working 14, 15-hour days, 7 days a week for months on end. It's hard. And, you know, not every production's like that. This one I'm on now is so much easier and nicer, but I think obviously, depending if you want to do more artist side, then you would need animation skills. But in terms of my side and just a general good attitude, someone that wants to be there, someone that's going to play as part of a team, because you are going to be spending most of your time with these people and they become your family. You see them more than your own family. So just someone that wants to be there and is passionate and, you know, a great attitude goes a long way.
Yeah, great, thank you. And a question to both of you. For anyone who's nervous or unsure about pursuing a career in post-production or VFX, what words of encouragement would you give them? Start with you, Lisa.
Yeah, I'd say do it. Honestly, it's fantastic. The feel you get when you step onto a set for the first time is electric. And just seeing the progression that you are a part of from prep through shoot to post. You know, in post-production, when you're delivering the film, you can be in reviews at 3 a.m. in the morning, but it's electrifying. And when you finally get to see the work you've done in a cast and crew before the film is released to the public, no words can describe how proud you feel. And just do it, just keep pushing. You know, I wish I had a program like this when I first started out, because it can be hard. And I think the hardest part is to get your foot in the door, that initial foot. I think once you're in it, it's about networking and just building up contacts. And honestly, I've done it for 10 years now, and I've traveled the world. I've been to Hawaii, I've been to Jamaica, I was in Malta last year, even during COVID, shooting Jurassic. It's incredible. And yeah, just do it. Don't have regrets, just push and do it.
Devin, anything else? Anything you'd add?
Yeah, pretty much along the same lines. Just go for it, you know. Yeah, just go for it and get into it, you know. Like with I mean, I pursued this opportunity because it was like a dream come true, you know. When I first, like Lisa said, when I first walked onto the studio, and I was like, I'm at Pinewood, like the history about the studio and how many films that was made there and all of that. That's what I was thinking about. And I seen the guy with the big gong and all that sort of stuff. I was just like, what? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, this is amazing. And then obviously when you're on a studio set, you see the other films going on as well. So you're like, oh, what? And you see the big, you know, might see a big, massive boat, or, you know, like our bus or army bus all burnt out and stuff. When you see all those things, you're like, wow, this is how it's done. Do you know what I mean? It's amazing in front of your eyes. So, you know,
it's real camaraderie as well in film across the board. Everyone, you just muck in, you get it done, and they are your family. Yeah, like Devin said, when I first started my first ever job at Pinewood, I was a production PA, and I drove through the gates of Pinewood, and they were shooting Snow White and the Huntsman. And I literally drove my car through 300 knights on horses. And I was like, this is mad. I've never experienced anything like it. It's never thing.
Thank you. Natalie, are there any other opportunities that ScreenSkills does that will help people that are on the session today?
Sorry, I was just getting caught up, and there's so many questions already in the Q&A, and I was in the chat box just now, so there's lots to answer. But yeah, in answer to your question, definitely, there's so much more information out there that we can offer. I mean, again, referring you back to our website, that's definitely should be your first port of call, because we do have some great resources there. A really good section with lots of information, like all the different jobs in the industry. Lisa alluded to this before as well. There's so many different roles, even within one particular department. So being able to sort of go through the list. We've got these career maps that can map out your path and sort of really understand what the opportunity is something of great value, and you can do that at any age, really early on. We've got case studies of people in industry like Lisa and Devon, and some people who've gone through our programs as well. We've got lots of on-demand video content. We've done many online sessions in the last year or so, especially with COVID. So you'll find a library of masterclasses with industry greats, panel discussions, and so much more. So there's lots of information and advice there. We've got our opportunities directory, and I think people have already found it in the chat because they've scooped me with some of the things I wanted. But
Good.
You can search the training and programs there, because it's not just Trainee Finder. We do have opportunities across many departments, across all career stages. So a couple of opportunities that are relevant and live right now that I'd like to flag. We are a partner in the monthly Digital Cities Virtual with BBC Academy. That's actually back next week, and we are hosting some free career skills sessions that can be booked directly from our website, but it's also worth checking out Digital Cities too, because they've got some other sessions too that might be relevant, and they're all free. We are funding a couple of virtual production introductory labs with Story Futures Academy. I know applications are still open for the session on the 30th of March, so you'll find that in our directory too. And we're partnering with Escape Studios and Epic Games for a series of workshops using Unreal Engine. Those are just 3 things I've picked out that have a specific sort of more sort of post-production and VFX relationship, but obviously there's so many different things there. So we add new opportunities regularly, so just do keep checking back. But finally, I'll mention bursaries. A ScreenSkills bursary is a cash award, basically designed to help you to take your next step in industry. Because sometimes there's just one barrier that if you were able to get something or do something, you would be able to move on. So bursaries can pay for training and other costs associated with skills and development. So it might be a particular course that you wanted to go on, or there might be some software that you needed, or even things like travel, not so much these days, but to get to a particular opportunity, or childcare so that you can actually take the time away to do something. So again, go to the site and review the guidelines and eligibility and what is covered, because sometimes it just might be that little bit of help that makes all the difference to you.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's great. I think we're really ahead of time, which is good, because that means we've got more time to actually focus on some of the questions that have come in from people in the chat. So I am going to go over to our first question. This is a question: how can we best present our skills for VFX, i.e. short films, a portfolio, YouTube account? I think Lisa and then Devon, maybe you can shed some light on how you presented your skills.
I think, again, it's different between client and vendor. Our side, we don't really need to see any kind of animation skills, because that's not what we really do. That's what we hire the vendors to do. So I think if you were to apply to a vendor role, then definitely I think anything like that would be helpful. From our side, you know, we've hired people that don't necessarily have any visual effects skills. One of our PAs on Bond, his job before that was working at Tesco, and he had no official background, but he just really wanted to get into the film industry. And you know, we interview everyone, and not just myself, but my producer, my supervisor, and we're just always looking for someone that wants to be there and is going to put the effort in. So that for us is key. It's not any particular, you know, skill set that we need other than that.
Yeah. Devon, anything?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, because I've trained more on the vending side, to be honest. So what I did is I went on Wix and just made a free website on there and just put my stuff on there. It was just easy, because it's easy to use, just drag and drop. And like you can just put all your stuff and organize it the way you want. If you don't want to do that, you can use something called ArtStation. It's like a big website that everyone, like, well, most industry people use, like, to make like characters on, environments, you name it, painting, background, map painting, motion capture, everything's on there. But it's free. You just go and it got like competitions on there like every week. So if you ain't, you're not confident with your skills, you can join the competition and get critiqued by other people that look at your work and then tell you pointers and stuff like that. If you want to do like animation, a good thing to go on is like 11-second club, and you can do like, because they got a thing on there every week where they give you like a snippet of audio, and then you can animate something to that audio. So it gets you into like animation and stuff like that. It's just, like acting for animation and stuff. It'll teach you about the principles for animation as well, because it's important to know the principles for animation. Another one that's good is like a portfolio box as well. That's another free site, like web-based site like Wix, that you can put your work on to present your work. Instagram's a pretty good thing as well, because you get an instant response from that. I found anyway lately, when I put my stuff on Instagram, people will be like, oh, I like it or whatever, and it's just good to get that, so at least your work's not like just going into dead space sort of thing, people appreciate it. So that's a good one. Yeah, those are pretty good ones to go on anyway. Yeah, that's ones I could think of off the top of my head. They'd be the best ones to go for.
Thank you.
So,
I just dropped in the chat as well a link from our site with a little bit of a how-to on how to build your portfolio for VFX, but I might be contacting Devon to get some updates of that, because he's added
he's got a lot of experience on it.
Yeah, it's cool.
And what software do you mainly use for VFX?
To me, it can vary. The industry standard is Maya for animation. You can use Max as well, but Max is mainly more for gaming and that. A good free software is Blender, because at the moment Maya is like charging you like money for it at the moment. So Blender is a good one to get on just because it's free. But the industry standard is Maya, so you need to know Maya to work in a studio. Okay. But apart from that, yeah, those I'd stick with those. Cinema 4D is all right for like advertisement as well, and you can do a lot of stuff on that. Max in 3D, that's another good one. Yeah, ZBrush, if you want to do like characters and modeling and stuff like that, ZBrush, use ZBrush or Mudbox, because that's very, very good to use. Yeah, that'd be the main one. Also Motion Builder for like animation as well, be another one to use.
And does working in VFX give you transferable skills to work in other departments? Lisa, this might be on you.
From my side, yes, and vice versa. So I started out in production. I was in production for a couple of years. Then I switched to the art department, where I worked as a digital asset manager, which isn't creative in the sense of drawing, but it was great because actually that's then what led me into visual effects. So I think what I do is very much talking to departments. It's a lot of talking, it's a lot of communication, and you work so closely with other departments. And yes, if you got into visual effects and you decided actually it's not for me, you can definitely switch out as long as you have the contacts and know the people to do that. So yeah, it is transferable, definitely.
And what advice would you give to someone who wants to get into VFX but has no experience?
Would that be on client side, so the work that I do as opposed to vendors?
Yeah, let's ask for the client side, and then maybe Devon might have some insight onto the vendor side.
Yeah, well, yeah, I had no experience. I will say visual effects, it's not common sense. You do have to learn as you go, but it's more about the processes and the steps. You don't need technical insight. I mean, even today, we've been having a conversation at work about 4x 4K scans, which still to this day blows my mind. But you don't need to know anything. Obviously, a little insight is great. And we often use databases called FileMaker and Shotgun. I predominantly work with FileMaker. So even just a basic understanding of those two databases is great, but it's really not essential because your team will teach you and you learn as you go. And I'm constantly learning, even now. So no, you don't need anything.
Devin, anything from the vendor side?
On the vendor side, I'd say, no, you don't need any. Well, yeah, you do. If on the vendor side, for experience, you do need to know a bit about the software and stuff, because obviously, you know, you can't just go straight in with not knowing anything about the software. So yeah, just learn the software. Like you could do a course or just do tutorials on YouTube. Just get yourself familiar with the software, so you're comfortable when you go in. You can, you know, do simple tasks, because depending on how the studio is going to work with the software, you don't know how, you know, they want you to record everything. It might be, you know, certain steps they want you to set up the files in, or so you need to know your way around software from the vendor perspective anyway.
And yeah, and I think also on that, just completely picking up on what Devon was just saying there about looking into those courses and opportunities. You don't even need to invest the money into, let's say I'm going to invest money on to go into a course just yet. It might be there's just some little introductory workshops that you can go to for free and just get a feel for it and sort of understanding that this is the way you want to go. I think that's important just across the board. Before you invest in something, you might want to just dip your toe in it a little bit and just see, oh yeah, this is something I could be passionate about. I'd like to learn more. Where do I go from here? So I think at least doing that bit of research, that bit of background, maybe some introductory sessions could be a good starting point as well.
I've got another point there. I think the best, if you don't know anything at all, I think the best starting place is to go on the ScreenSkills website. If you go on the website, there's job profiles on there. So if you go on the, it's a job profile page. And then what you do is you look for the subject area. So say, for instance, like animation or games design, you click on that subject area. And then when it opens up, it will tell you more about that subject. It will tell you like, to do animation, you need like this course, you need to go to this, do that sort of thing. It'll tell you instructions. It'll tell you like what to put in your demo reel. It'll tell you like tips on networking, interview tips. There'll be industry talks from real animators and stuff telling you how it is in the industry. But that's a good starting place if you don't know anything. It'll tell you like the pipeline of the film industry, so you know like how it's structured, who's at the top, who's at the bottom, like how it's all formulated, and then you have a better scope of like saying, oh, I want to do 3D to do that, if you know what I mean, instead of saying, oh, I just want to do animation or I just want to do game. But it'll give you more of a structure of like what's entailed in the job role, like what you have to do, sort of thing.
Yeah, and that kind of moves on to. Yeah, I was just going to say that kind of moves on to another question where someone was asking Natalie, what are the career maps that you were talking about?
Yeah, I'll put those in there too. Yeah, so it is similar to what Devon was saying, but the career maps were actually produced specifically as a resource for the careers team, for people who are school age to actually sort of understand the lay of the land. But frankly, we go to events with adults all the time and they grab them by the fistful. So they're really useful for absolutely everyone. So while we're talking, I will find them and drop a link for them in the chat as well. Link in the chat, go to our website. Those are going to be my things for the day.
Thank you. And does ScreenSkills provide you with credible training certificates and qualifications? I know you spoke about Select earlier. Not sure if there's anything else that you would like to add on that.
I think it would depend on what the course is, whether it's something that's an accredited course which has a certificate attached to it, or whether it's something that is more of a workshop or an opportunity. So there's definitely things that we do that provide a certificate to say, oh, you've been on it. But then there's also the fact that the training providers we work with, because a lot of the training we do, it's not carried out by us directly. We actually just bring in the best of the business to actually deliver the training for us. So for instance, the Unreal Engine that we were talking about earlier, that's with Escape Studios. if you were to go to someone and say, oh, I did this with Escape Student. Oh, okay, that's brilliant. That provides you that level of credibility. I think, as we were talking about with Select, with this industry, it can be formal and it can be informal. If you were going to be a chartered accountant, they would want to see the letters after your name, and they would want to see that you have done this course at this institution, and that's how you get in the door. With the screen industries, we've talked about, there's so many pathways in there. You don't need a degree. You don't necessarily need the formal training. You do need to have certain skills. So some things might have a certificate attached to it, but I wouldn't place too much emphasis on that, because that's not necessarily what people are asking for. I think Lisa alluded to earlier, they want to see your skills. They want to see that you're enthusiastic and you're able to do something, and other things you might learn on the job. So some things you definitely might need a specific qualification for. If you were doing stunts or something, they wouldn't let me just roll up and do that. But other things, it can be a little bit more informal sometimes.
So another question, this is for Devon. From your experience, is doing a master's in VFX worth it? I feel like I don't want to be putting anyone off from going to uni if that is your chosen path, but what would you say?
Yeah, it is worth it, because you get to like specialize. That's why I did a master's, because I really love like motion capture when I did my BA honors, but it was only like a module, so I didn't get to do it enough. And like I really like messing around with all the technology and stuff like that, tracking and all that. So when I thought I'd apply for a master's so I could specialize for the whole year on motion capture in my animation. So I did a short film, and it was mainly using motion capture and just keyframe animation, just to do little bits, but it was mainly motion capture I specialized in. So yeah, masters is good for that. If you want to show that in your demo reel, your quality, like your skill, that's what it's good for, really.
Perfect. No, thank you.
Okay.
And Lisa, for recent graduates, what's the best way of finding work and opportunities?
I would say, just in my experience, I was looking on Facebook, I was looking online, just applying, again, because I didn't know I wanted to be in visual effects. I was just applying for everything and anything. I actually started in a post-production house in London as a PA. I would just say yes to opportunities that come up, even if in the interim you're not going to get paid for it. It's so important to create contacts with people, because the industry is actually very small. Everyone knows everyone. And I think just take every experience, work experience. We do have people, has to be approved by the studio, but that come in and do a week's work experience with us. And they go away knowing people. And then from then they email, and it just progresses. So don't turn anything down, even if you get a job that's not in visual effects or post-production or editorial. Just do it, and just from then just use that as a stepping stone and go towards what you want to do.
I think also, sorry, I'm just interrupting.
No, go for it.
I think also it's good to sort of look at other places where you can meet people and talk to people about their experiences too. In the real world, and we hope we'll be back there soon, we did do a series of events called Open Doors, which did give you an opportunity to sit down at some round tables, and we do them all over the country. So there's no need to be, or you have to be in London or you have to be in Manchester, but give you an opportunity to sit down and talk to people like Lisa and Devon and people who are in industry doing the things that you want to do, and get some insight from them. Because we do know that there's some barriers to entry for some people. We can't all do a free work experience, or we can't all travel, or we can't necessarily have access to a wide network. So it's about, exactly as Lisa says, actually finding people to talk to so that you can increase that network. So if there's things that we can do, and not just us, other BFI Academy and other people like that, is to keep your ear to the ground and find out what's going on. Events just like this, so that you can actually speak to the people who do the jobs and find out about the ways in too, because we shouldn't always be thinking that there's only one route and you can only do it if you have access to certain networks or means or income. So I think it's great that BFI Academy and that ScreenSkills and everybody does offer these kind of opportunities, so we can just be a bit more accessible to more people.
Yeah, funnily enough, Lisa, someone is asking if you would allow them to, or would you allow people to shadow you for a day or two?
Yes, in theory, we do that. Probably not right now, just because of COVID. It is something that needs to be approved by the studio first. I mean, on Bond, we had, I don't know if it was this particular program or a similar one, where we did get trainees come in and work experience come in. Everyone, all departments, visual effects included, are very open to allowing people to come in and kind of have a look and shadow. And I also find, and when I chat to my peers, my other colleagues, when we're hiring crew, it's so hard to find PAs because it's brand new people essentially coming into the industry. Because when we were hiring coordinators, assistant coordinators, they're already in the industry, and it's really hard, really easy to, you know, interview and find them. So that's kind of why we do trainee schemes and work experience, because then we pick those to become PAs. So yes, when COVID's probably died down, for sure. And I would just say to anyone, if you're not sure where to start, just contact people, you know, message. There's Facebook, there's Instagram, just, you know, knock on everyone's doors, and just try and get out there.
Yeah, social media has become not a great leveler, but it has made so many things so much more accessible.
Yeah.
There are lots and lots and lots of Facebook groups out there that there could be general ones, but they could be by department. There's a really active runners group and things like that. So you should do a little bit of sniffing around and sort of get into those groups, because they're usually moderated and populated by people in industry, and they're the ones who know everything. So if you want to be a runner to sort of get in, go into the runners group, because they probably have all the information of where there's opportunities. They could be active on set right now, and we're looking for someone. They'll post it in the group, and there's your in. And if you're not in that position yet, there might still be people in there saying, hey, can I ask you a question? Do you mind if I ask you a question? Can I DM you? Can we take this offline? You never know until you ask. There has to be an element of persistence. And I think when Devon and Lisa were talking earlier about what that they needed to be in the industry, I think sort of persistence and enthusiasm, we're on that list. So I think that's a good place to start too.
Yeah, confidence as well. I still find LinkedIn quite useful. And I think being confident just to message someone or try and link in with someone and saying, hey, I'm interested in what you do. Can you tell me more? A lot of time people are willing, they like to tell people and give advice on what they've done and see how they can help those coming up in the industry. So be confident with that as well. I think this is a question for both Natalie and Lisa. So Lisa, what advice would you be able to give people when they're putting their CVs together?
I think keep it very contained, because in our jobs we are so busy that if we get a CV, it's really good just to see clearly any work experience, anything that's relevant. So just keep it short and concise, I would say, definitely. We don't really look for kind of school GCSEs or A-levels, anything like that. It's more if you have any sort of work experience, really the direction you want to go down. And we're not looking for pages worth of CVs. You don't have to have a lot of experience. As I said before, and Natalie said, it's the passion. And to be honest, a lot of the times it's more the email body that we look at. It's just that introduction. It's just getting to know that person. And, you know, even if we don't reply straight away, it's not that we are being rude or anything like that. It's just because you're busy. But a lot of the time is you'll get someone's CV or email and you will just pass on the contacts on, because your colleagues will say, hey, we're looking for a PA, do you know anyone? And we would just ping that on. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
For me, I'm not an expert at writing CVs, but I've been lucky enough to sit in a couple of the sessions, the inductions actually for Trainee Finder, where they have a whole section about writing and structuring your CVs. And stealing from other people's advice from those sessions, I do remember them saying that the average hirer who's looking at a CV will give it 3 seconds before they move on to the next one. So you need to sort of structure your CV with that in mind. So sometimes if you're thinking about, well, let me do my career chronologically. Well, I was in primary school, and then here, my first job was in the tuck shop. And what they really want to know is what you're doing now. So sometimes you might need to reverse that order to get to the point straight away. So they're looking for a PA, you're a PA. They're looking for an animator, you're an animator, and then sort of reverse the order. So you prioritize the information they want to see first. So it's good to have a look on our website again. And actually, I know they were doing a CV session, Digital Cities, next week, but I know that one's sold out, but they do them monthly. So look out for that again. But sometimes those practical workshops where you have people who are like in studio talent teams or whatever, they're the ones who do the recruiting. So they can give you those pointers in those sessions and say, look, we don't want photos. Some people still put photos on their CVs. We don't want this, we don't want that. Structure it this way. As Lisa says, brevity is key. You need to maybe 1 page, 2 at the absolute maximum. But yeah, we've got some tips on the website for that. I'll find a link and drop it in the chat again. But also look out for those practical sessions, because it does really bring it to life for you, and it sticks in your mind when you actually have someone going through and putting some mock examples of what a good CV looks like and a bad CV looks like. And then you sit there and think, oh, my CV looks exactly like that. So it resonates a bit more. But as we move on, I'll find that link for you and drop it in chat.
Just another question. Do the workshops help with interview prep as well? Someone's asking the best way to prepare for an interview.
I haven't seen a specific one recently. I think there might be some tips on interview techniques and preparation. I'm pretty sure we've got some tips on that on the site too, in that same section. I'll look for that now.
Okay. Lisa, Devon, any advice on best preparing for an interview? What do you do?
I would say, yeah, it's hard not to be nervous in interviews. Even I get nervous now when I'm interviewed. But don't worry, because obviously we would expect that. So it doesn't matter if that comes through at all. What I would say is a great foundation is, if you know what the film is or the TV show is that you're going to be interviewing for, just doing a little bit of research. Just, you know, if it's already out there, just watch it, you know who the director is. It's great if the information's out there to know who the supervisor is. You don't need to do a lot of research, but just, I think, coming in without any idea or any understanding does come through. And like I said before, if you're passionate, if you want to be there, I think naturally people do that research anyway. So yeah, just a little bit of understanding about what you're coming into. And it's all on IMDb and everything. So, you know, it's not hard to find.
Yeah, and then there's the general that applies to any interviews, not just interviews for Screen Industries, about things like preparing yourself mentally, getting up early in the morning. Make sure the day before you've planned your route, so you know how you're going to get there. Because the worst thing, if you're nervous already, and then you find out the bus isn't running, there's a diversion and it's raining and all these things, you don't need the additional stress. So give yourself plenty of time. Get there early, well, I'm speaking like this is the real world, like we're not just doing interviews on Zoom right now, but assuming we were outside, go into a Starbucks or something, getting a coffee just to calm your nerves, knowing that you're right on time, and then cross over the road, go take that meeting. So just doing little things to help yourself out. you don't need to have all that extra stress on your shoulders.
Devin, anything else to add?
Yeah, just a bit along the same lines, really. I'd say just be yourself, be humble, yeah, and yeah, just be humble, be yourself. Try and be as confident as you can, but just give it your all. That's all you can do at the end of the day. As long as you do that, you know, it must be successful. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, everyone said just try and prepare. Just don't go in half, handed sort of thing. Just prepare before, do the research, like Lisa said, go on IMDb and find out who's on the show, and yeah, but just be humble and be yourself. That's all you can do, and you should be successful. That's the best advice I could give you.
And Natalie, I mean, you touched on it about doing interviews on Zoom now. There is a Zoom etiquette as well, like such as finding a quiet space and that kind of thing. So when you're interviewing, make sure that you think about somewhere that's quiet, where you haven't got, I don't know, animals or children running in, or even partners running in, making noise in the middle of your interview. So there's things to think about while doing interviews online as well.
Definitely.
There's a question here, Natalie, about Trainee Finder program. Do we know when applications will be open for that?
Well, I mentioned it a little bit earlier that all things being equal, if production carries on the recovery at the rate it's been doing so far, we would hope to open up applications again in October 2021. That's all we can say at this point. We just have to monitor what's going on in the industry, because it is important that productions are safe, they're up and running. And Devin and Lisa just alluded to the fact they've been working throughout the pandemic. So production is working under new protocols though. So everyone has to be aware of that. But if things are going the way that they have been going, we would hope that we'd be in a position to open the program in the autumn. But keep watching the website.
So with the current climate, with the pandemic, do you think there's the possibility of working more remotely in VFX now going forward? Lisa?
Yes, I mean, I've actually I finished on Bond, I think a week before we actually went into lockdown. And I have actually only had 2 weeks off over the past year. So the film industry is very robust. It would take a lot to bring the film industry down. And this past year, I have predominantly worked remotely. I did do shoot on Jurassic World Dominion, where I mentioned before, we were in Malta for 6 weeks, and we were at Pinewood shooting. We were getting tested 3 times a week, which is not fun. But yes, I think it's definitely opened everyone's eyes that things can be done remotely. Not everything, some things are made harder, but I'm currently working remotely on post-production on The Northman, and have been since November. And it's going fine. We have reviews with the director on a twice weekly basis. It can be done, and I do think it will be taken into the future.
Anything else? Anyone add anything else?
I think all the industry, which all departments do have to adapt to a certain extent. And I know there's some production office roles or whatever that have become more remotely, because coronavirus guidelines do mean that fewer people can be on set at any one time. So certain things where it is not imperative that you're on set. And I know that has, some of those roles have gone remotely too. But as Lisa says, it's about the industry adapting and pivoting and finding a way for things to work so they can continue on production. So it's not necessarily a negative thing. It just means finding a new way to get the work done to the same conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, I mean, my experience of working remotely, I found it a bit hard specifically just because it was just communication was a bit hard with online, but when you're in the studio, it's just a bit more easier just to talk to people directly and get things done quicker. So that's what I found with it. So I mean, going forward, I would ideally want it to go back to not being remote in the studio, just because it's just better being in the studio. Like, it's just a better experience. Things just get done quicker. But remote, like, yeah, in the long run, I could see, that being here for good, I'd be 50-50 sort of thing, I reckon. But I think most big productions, I think you kind of need to be in the studio. I just found it was just easier being in the studio, talking to the producer directly and stuff. It was just easier,
I think we're going to squeeze one more question in before we wrap it up. But Devin, this goes back to when you were talking about the different softwares. Which software would you learn first? Which one did you learn first?
Maya. Maya was the first software I learned. I've been on Maya for about 11 years or something now. I've been on it for a while. But yeah, Maya will be the main one to learn because it's so much different avenue, and you can do anything with Maya. Literally, I forgot to add actually with Maya, if you're doing a university course or college course, you get the application for free. As long as you put your ID online and stuff, you'll get it for free for the time that you're on the duration of the course. So you do get it for free. Other than that, you will have to pay for the software though, but it's a free software as long as you study it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. That's all we've got time for with the questions. So thank you for everyone putting your questions in the chat. But before we close, I'd like to show you what else ScreenSkills has on offer for you. So Fiona, could you play the video, please?
I didn't have any connections in the film industry before I started out.
A lot of the courses that are available are priced at quite premium rates.
I did feel like it was a bit of a barrier living in the northeast of England.
You need a driving licence to do a lot of roles in TV. I was working as a lighting technician, but I was held back from doing installations because I'd not yet taken this course.
I trained in creative and performing arts and kind of got sidetracked into being behind the scenes.
I've always wanted to be involved in the animation industry from when I was a child.
I was working in film and I was really worried that the transition to TV would be quite difficult.
I was very surprised when I entered the industry at how many different departments there actually are. You always hear about camera, sound, editing, but you never really hear about all the other jobs which are actually really vital to the production.
I'm a trainee spark. It's a very old school word for an electrician.
I started out as a production office trainee with ScreenSkills, so you get to see all the departments, and that was where I came across visual effects.
Being a floor runner, we liaise with different departments.
I'm on my way to being a stunt performer.
I am a researcher in television.
You think of hair and makeup, camera department maybe, special effects sometimes, but locations you never seem to think that it's there.
I knew I was capable, I just needed to get someone to get me through the door, and that's what ScreenSkills did.
It gave me contacts. It also helped me to learn about writing letters to people.
I'm actually a domestic appliance engineer who used to work for Zanussi, fixing washing machines.
ScreenSkills arranged for me to get a placement on a feature film. I got a bursary for my driving lessons.
Without the support of ScreenSkills, I would not have been able to access such great training opportunities.
Great. Well, that brings our panel to a close, and I hope we have whet your appetite for the world of post-production and VFX, as well as giving you an insight into opportunities ScreenSkills has on offer. I've definitely learned a lot today, so I hope you have too. And I've seen a lot of grateful people in the chat, everyone saying thank you and saying, yeah, you guys gave awesome advice, so thanks a lot. I'd like to thank all our panelists, Devon, Lisa and Natalie, as well as give a big thank you to the BFI Festival for providing us a panel slot today to speak to you. If you have any further questions, do go onto the ScreenSkills website or email info@screenskills.com. So I'll hand over to Laura again. Thank you.
So much to Felisha, Natalie, Devin and Lisa there. That was really, really helpful. Loads of really great advice and information. And I also wanted to say a massive thank you to you all for being a really excellent audience, asking loads of great questions. We really hope that you'll be able to join us for more events in the festival. Today we have a Q&A with Elliot and Xander Weaver of Alianda Pictures, who have recently completed their debut feature film. That will be taking place at 1:30 over on our Instagram page. And our next live webinar is Shooting on Film, Everything You Need to Know. And that's at 2 o'clock. So you can still sign up to that one. I think Noel will post a link to it in the chat, but we would love to see you there. We'd also really appreciate it if you could complete our festival survey. Your responses help us to improve the events that we offer and also keep them all free for you to attend. So they're really important to us, and we really appreciate the time that you take to fill them in. Noel's going to post a link to the survey in the chat box. I think he already has, and you'll also get an email as well with that link to fill in. So that's it from us. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.